1 of the fantasy football season, and he has a few running backs. I have his sleepers this week. The first guy is Nyheim Hines of the Indianapolis Colts. So Nyheim Hines, he was a pretty good running back last season here for this Indianapolis Colt team. And right now, he's been owned in about 60-70% of fantasy leagues he's been drafted in. And this week, I like the matchup for Nyheim Hines right here. Seattle Seahawks coming to town, because I think this game's going to be high scoring. And I think we're going to see Hines on the field a lot. He's a better wide receiver out of the backfield than Jonathan Taylor. And I think a lot of people took Jonathan Taylor too early in their fantasy leagues, because beat writers came out the other day saying as well that Nyheim Hines, the coaching staff for Frank Reich and the Colts, want to get him more touches. And in this game, I could see a shootout like I mentioned. And I could see Hines getting anywhere from 12 to 18 touches in this game, including some carries, obviously, some catches out of the backfield. And this is the type of game where I think the game script's going to be in Hines' favor. So right now, if you're in a pinch or you don't have much running back depth, or you lost a few guys to injury or questionable guys, I think Nyheim Hines is a good player to put in your starting lineup, especially in PPR leagues. And I think he definitely could get double-digit fantasy points this week. The next running back's Tyson Williams of the Baltimore Ravens. So the Ravens, crazy amount of running back injuries over the last couple weeks here. First with Dobbins in preseason tearing the ACL, then Justice Hill tearing the Achilles, and then Gus Edwards going down yesterday with the torn ACL in practice. So right now, next man up, and it looks like for this week at least, it's going to be Tyson Williams, because the Baltimore Ravens signed Le'Veon Bell early in the week, and last night they signed Devonta Freeman and Latavius Murray. But I think when it's all said and done, Murray and Bell will be the two favorites for early down work. But this week, Tyson Williams, he should be the man with Le'Veon Bell mixed in a little bit, in my opinion, here, because he knows the playbook. He's been with the Ravens all training camp, and he was number 2 on the depth chart before Edwards went down with the ending torn ACL surgery. So right now, Tyson Williams, he's been picked up in a massive amount of fantasy leagues, where he's only available right now in 29%. And right here, he might not even be much of a sleeper this week with the injury to Edwards, because I see Williams definitely getting double-digit touches, but he's more of a catching back out of the backfield, in my opinion, than an in-between the tackle guy. But right here this week, I like the matchup a lot at Vegas. And right now, if you were a Gus Edwards owner and you have Tyson Williams, he's an easy guy to put in your lineup this week, because I think he could do damage, and I like the matchup. So right now, Tyson Williams, definitely put him in your lineup. And the third and final sleeper at running back this week's Tevin Coleman of the New York Jets. So everyone, they went out there and they drafted Michael Carter pretty early in the 8th and 9th round of most fantasy drafts. But they forgot about one man, and that's Tevin Coleman, who obviously has history with Robert Saleh in San Francisco last year. So they brought him over. And Michael Carter, he just hasn't looked good in preseason. So right here, right now, is Tevin Coleman's number 1 on the depth chart for this New York Jet team. And I think he could do some work here in a decent matchup versus the Carolina Panthers. We always knew Tevin Coleman was a good running back going back to his days with the Atlanta Falcons, but injuries have always been a concern. But right now, Tevin Coleman looks like the number 1 man, and I think he definitely could get double-digit fantasy points in this ball game at Carolina. So if you got injuries, or if you just don't like matchups of other running backs or need a flex option, I think Coleman isn't the worst option in the world, and he's still out there in a tons of fantasy leagues. So right here, that's a few running back sleepers I got going into week 1 of the fantasy football season.